It was a cold morning in Los Angeles when Keanu Reeves stepped out of his black SUV. Surrounded by flashing cameras and noisy reporters, he looked calm, with his hands buried in the pockets of his worn-out jacket. Next to him, walking a step, behind as always, was Amelia, his bodyguard for the last 12 years. Nobody ever paid much attention to her. She was quiet, strong, and had a face that blended easily into crowds. But to Keanu, she was more than just protection. She was family. For 12 years, Amelia had shielded him from aggressive fans, pushed back rude paparazzi, and even stood in the way of a car once when a driver lost control. She never asked for thanks, never demanded praise. She simply did her job and disappeared into the background, like a shadow that moved when he moved. This morning, though, there was something strange about her. Keanu noticed it right away. Amelia's eyes looked tired, but not from lack of sleep. They carried a sadness he hadn't seen before. When he asked if she was okay, she just nodded and said, "All good, boss." But Keanu could feel her words were empty. They made their way through the crowd and entered a studio for an early morning interview. Inside the green room, while Keanu went over his notes, Amelia stood by the door, scanning every corner like she always did. But once, when she thought he wasn't looking, he saw her slip her hand into her pocket and squeeze a small, folded piece of paper. The show went well. Keanu charmed the host and made the audience laugh. But when the cameras were off and the applause faded, he turned to Amelia. "We need to talk," he said gently. She just nodded, eyes on the floor, on the drive back to his house. The silence between them was heavy. Keanu's mind raced with questions he couldn't ask. Was she sick? Was someone in her family in trouble? He knew Amelia didn't have much. Family left. She had once told him her father left when she was 5. Her mother died when she was 19, and since then she had learned to trust no one, until him. When they reached his home, Amelia didn't follow him inside like she usually did. Instead, she stood by the gate, her hand gripping that same piece of paper. "Amelia, what's going on?" Keanu asked, stepping closer. She lifted her eyes to meet his. They were wet now, but she refused to let the tears fall. "I need to give you something," she said, her voice trembling. She placed the folded letter in his hand and stepped back. Keanu opened his mouth to speak, but Amelia shook her head. "Please, just read it when I'm gone. I can't do this face to face." Before he could stop her, she turned and walked down the street. She didn't look back once. Keanu stood frozen at the gate, the letter shaking slightly in his hand. The man who had faced hundreds of interviews, thousands of fans, and the hardest losses in his own life now felt the sting of a fear he couldn't name. Inside his house, he sat down by the window, the letter on his lap. He stared at the folded paper, afraid of what secrets it might hold. What could make the strongest, most loyal person in his life walk away without a goodbye? His mind flashed back to all the moments they had shared. The late-night shoots when Amelia brought him coffee because she knew he was too tired to ask. The times she patched him up after a stunt went wrong. The way she once told off a producer who was yelling at him on set. She was more than a bodyguard. She was the only person who saw Keanu Reeves the man, not the movie star. He took a deep breath and unfolded the letter. As his eyes scanned the first lines, his chest tightened. The words were written in Amelia's neat, careful handwriting. Every sentence carried the weight of secrets she had hidden for 12 long years. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow over his empty driveway. But inside, Keanu felt a storm brewing. Whatever he read next would change everything he thought he knew about loyalty, trust, and the quiet woman who had risked her life for him every day. He whispered to himself, "Why didn't you tell me sooner, Amelia?" And then, with a heavy heart, he began to read the words that would break him and rebuild him in ways he never saw coming. Keanu read the first few lines of Amelia's letter, and his hands began to tremble. He could almost hear her voice. In each word, soft but strong, just like her. "Dear Keanu, by the time you read this, I will be gone. Not because I want to leave you alone, but because I have to do something I should have done years ago. I'm sorry for doing this in a letter. You deserve better than words on paper. But I don't have the courage to look you in the eyes while I tell you the truth." Keanu paused. He looked around the empty room, half expecting Amelia to appear and laugh, saying it was all a joke. But the letter was real. The pain in her words was real. He took a deep breath and kept reading. "When I first became your bodyguard, I thought it was just a job. Protect the actor, push away fans, handle the crowds. But you made it more. You treated me like a person, not a guard dog. You asked about my day. You brought me soup when I was sick. You were kind when I didn't know kindness still existed. But I was lying to you every single day." Keanu's chest tightened. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat. Lying? About what? He had trusted Amelia more than anyone. There's no easy way to say this. "I was hired not just to protect you, but to spy on you. I worked for a man named Mr. Barrington. You know him as the old investor who used to visit your sets. But he was much more than that. He paid me to watch you, to report every move you made, who you talked to, what you said, every single detail." Keanu remembered Barrington well. The man was always around in the early days. He invested in one of Keanu's first films when nobody else believed in him. Keanu thought he was a kind old man who faded away once the money rolled in. But now, pieces didn't add up. He read on, his eyes stinging. "I was 23 when I signed up. I had no money, no family, and no hope. Mr. Barrington promised he would pay for my mother's hospital bills if I agreed to work for him. I was desperate. I told myself it was just for a year. But then my mother died, and I had nothing left except this job. I stayed because I saw the real you. I saw how you cared for people who didn't deserve it. I saw you give money to the homeless when you thought no one was watching. I saw you talk to the janitors like they were your equals. You didn't deserve a spy in your life. You deserved a friend." Keanu let the letter fall to his lap. His vision blurred as he remembered the countless nights they sat together in silence. Amelia, always close, but never too close. Now he knew why. He picked up the letter again, forcing himself to read. "For years, I lied to myself. I thought I could make it right by protecting you with everything I had. Maybe I did. Maybe that was my way of paying back my betrayal. But last month, Mr. Barrington's son called me. He wanted me to do it again. He wants your secrets, your private moments. He offered me money I could never dream of. But I can't do it anymore. Keanu, not to you." Keanu closed his eyes. He could almost feel Amelia's presence beside him, telling him it would be okay. He wanted to be angry, but all he felt was an ache deep inside his chest. "I know you will never forgive me. I know you will never trust me again. But I hope one day you will understand why I did it. I don't want your money. I don't want your pity. I just want you to be safe from me, from them, from all the people who wanted to break you." Keanu's tears finally fell. The man who was always calm, always strong, now felt like a lost boy reading a letter from someone he thought he knew better than himself. He folded the letter and placed it on the table. He sat there for a long time, staring at the walls. He replayed memories in his mind. Amelia fighting off a fan who tried to grab him. Amelia smiling quietly when he cracked a silly joke. Amelia standing in the rain, drenched, so he could get into the car safely. He whispered into the silence, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" But the room gave him no answers. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Mr. Reeves, we need to talk about Amelia. You're not safe. Come alone. Don't trust anyone." Keanu felt a chill run down his spine. The letter was only the beginning. And now, for the first time in years, he would have to protect himself. He grabbed his jacket, slipped the letter into his pocket, and stepped out into the night, not knowing that what waited for him would test everything he believed about trust, forgiveness, and how far a man will go for someone who betrayed him, yet loved him more than anyone ever could. Keanu walked through the dark streets alone, the letter still folded in his pocket. The message from the unknown number kept echoing in his mind. He kept replaying Amelia's words too, her betrayal, her apology, and her love all mixed up in a knot he couldn't untangle. He reached a small cafe on the edge of the city. It was nearly midnight, but the lights were still on when he pushed open the door. The warmth hit him first, along with the smell of old wood and coffee. There were only two people inside, a young waiter wiping down a table and a man sitting. In the back, half hidden in shadow, Keanu walked straight to the man. The stranger looked up and motioned for him to sit. He was maybe 40, with a sharp jaw and eyes that kept moving, like he was scanning the room for threats. "Mr. Reeves," the man said softly, "thank you for coming alone. It means I can trust you're serious about what comes next." Keanu didn't sit. He stood, his hands clenched. "Who are you? What do you know about Amelia?" The man didn't flinch. He pulled out a small envelope and slid it across the table. "I used to work with Amelia. I was the one who trained her. We all worked for Mr. Barrington once, until we realized what he was really doing." Keanu's voice cracked. "What was he doing?" The man looked at the waiter, who was still watching. He gestured for the kid to leave. Once they were alone, the man leaned forward. "Mr. Barrington didn't just want to watch you. He wanted to control you. He used Amelia and a few others to dig into your life, your friends, your money, your choices. When you made too much money or got too close to the wrong people, he would push you away through rumors or lies." Keanu's head spun. It was too much to take in. He pulled out Amelia's letter and dropped it on the table. "She said she quit. She said she couldn't spy anymore." The man nodded. "She did quit. But leaving isn't easy when you work for people like Barrington. They don't just let you walk away. You know too much. You become a threat." Keanu thought of Amelia's tired eyes that morning, the way her voice shook when she gave him the letter. She hadn't looked scared of him. She was scared for him. The man spoke again. "They want her dead, Keanu, and they'll use you to find her. If you stay close to her, you'll lead them right to her." Keanu felt a deep anger rising in his chest. "Where is she? Tell me." The man shook his head. "I don't know, but I know how she thinks. She'll try to disappear. She'll go where nobody would expect, but they'll find her if you keep searching out in the open." Keanu dropped into the chair across from him, exhausted. "What do you want from me?" The man leaned in. "Help me protect her. That's what she would want. We need to find a way to expose Barrington's son. We can't do that if you keep playing the celebrity. You need to lay low for a while." Keanu let out a bitter laugh. "Lay low? I can't just disappear. People would notice." The man's eyes softened. "For the first time, Amelia once told me you were different, that you'd choose what's right over what's easy. Now's the time to prove her right." Keanu's mind flashed back to the night Amelia stood outside his trailer in the pouring rain. Because someone made threats against him on set, she never slept, never stopped. She was more loyal than any friend he ever had. And all this time, she carried this secret alone. He stood up. "What do we do now?" The man slid a small card across the table. "There's a cabin in the mountains. Quiet, safe. Go there tonight. I'll meet you tomorrow with the next steps. If they see you here, you'll lose your only chance to help her." Keanu looked at the card. It was plain, just an address written in black ink. He slipped it into his pocket, next to Amelia's letter. He turned to leave, but the man called after him. "Mr. Reeves, one more thing. She still loves you. You know, she never stopped." Keanu didn't look back. He pushed the door open and stepped into the cold night air. He could almost hear Amelia's voice in the wind, telling him to be careful, telling him to forgive her. He got into his car and started the engine. The city lights faded behind him as he drove towards the mountains. Every mile felt like another secret peeled away, another piece of the woman he thought he knew being revealed. In his mind, he made a promise. If she was out there, alone and hiding, he would find her, not to bring her back as a bodyguard, not to make her explain, but to thank her for the years she gave him, and to stand by her now, no matter what it cost. Far behind him, hidden in the shadows, a black car pulled away from the curb. Its headlights stayed dark. Someone was watching, someone who didn't want Keanu to reach that cabin alive. Keanu drove through the twisting mountain roads long after midnight. The sky was dark, with only the headlights cutting through the mist. The letter from Amelia sat on the passenger seat, like a ghost reminding him of every word she wrote. He kept replaying her voice in his head. "I was hired to spy on you. I'm sorry. I did it to save my mother. Please forgive me. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as the road curved. The higher he climbed, the more alone he felt. The city lights were gone, replaced by tall pines, and the sound of the wind. He checked his rearview mirror every few minutes. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone was behind him. Hidden in the dark dot an hour later, he saw an old wooden sign, Stone Ridge Cabins. He turned onto a gravel path and followed it to a small cabin tucked under tall trees. The place looked abandoned, but there was a faint light in one window. He parked the car and stepped out, the cold air biting his skin. Inside, the cabin smelled of old wood and dust. There was a fireplace with dying embers and a table with 2 mugs. Keanu walked in slowly, half expecting the man from the cafe to appear from the shadows. Instead, the room was empty. He set his bag down and pulled a chair up to the fireplace. He unfolded Amelia's letter again, reading the last lines over and over. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me. Don't look for me. Stay safe. Keanu leaned back, closing his eyes. He thought of the years she walked behind him like a silent guardian. How many times had she lied straight to his face? Only 2. Protect him from something worse. Part of him wanted to hate her for the lies, but another part, the bigger part, only felt the loss. His eyes snapped open when he heard a soft creak outside. He stood up, listening. Another creak. Footsteps on the wooden porch. He moved to the door and pulled it open. The cold wind rushed in, but there was no one there. Then he heard it, a small sound near the trees. He stepped outside and followed. The noise, his shoes crunching on the gravel. In the shadows by the trees, he saw a figure. His heart jumped. Amelia. He called out, his voice low. The figure stepped closer into the pale moonlight. It wasn't Amelia. It was the man from the cafe. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. We don't have much time, the man said. They know you're here. We have to move. Keanu frowned. How did they find me so fast? The man glanced over his shoulder. Someone you trust is talking. Maybe your assistant. Maybe your driver. Barrington's son has money everywhere. He'll pay anyone for your location. Keanu felt anger bubble up. I can't keep running. Where's Amelia? You said you'd help me find her. The man looked at him, his eyes sad. I don't know exactly where she is yet, but I know where she will be. Keanu's heart pounded. What do you mean? She's going to the coast. There's a dock where she used to go as a kid. She told me once it was the only place she felt safe. If she's running, she'll go there. Keanu grabbed his jacket. Then let's go. The man raised a hand to stop him. Keanu, listen to me. If you show up there, you'll lead them right to her. They'll use you to find her. She knows. That's why she begged you in the letter not to look for her. Keanu shook his head. I can't just sit here and do nothing. She gave up everything for me. I won't let her die alone. The man put a hand on his shoulder. If you want to help her, you need to do it smart. We need proof. We need to expose Barrington's son so they can't hunt her anymore. Keanu's mind raced. He thought of the secret meetings, the payments, the rumors that made him look difficult on set whenever he didn't do what the investors wanted. It all made sense now. All the times his career almost fell apart, someone was pulling the strings. The man handed him a small flash drive. This is the first piece, Amelia. Collected it over the years, emails, bank records, recordings. But it's not enough. We need more. You need to stay hidden until we get it. Keanu took the flash drive. It felt too small to hold so much truth. And what about her? What if they find her first? The man's eyes turned hard. That's why I'm going to the dock. I'll find her. You have to trust me. Keanu looked away. Trust. That word felt heavy now. How many people had betrayed him without him knowing? And yet, he had no choice. If he didn't trust this man, Amelia would be alone. Just then, headlights flashed through the trees. The man swore under his breath. They're here. Go out the back. Take the trail down to the river. I'll hold them off. Keanu hesitated. You'll get hurt. The man gave him a sad smile. I was hurt a long time ago. Now go. Keanu slipped the flash drive into his pocket next to Amelia's letter and ran through the back door. The cold night air cut through him as he stumbled down a narrow trail. that led into the forest. Behind him, he heard shouting and a single gunshot. He wanted to turn back, but he knew he couldn't. As he reached the river, Keanu stopped to catch his breath. He looked up at the moon, whispering to the dark sky, "Hold on, Amelia. Please hold on." The wind carried no answer, only the promise of more danger, more secrets, and the hope that somewhere on a lonely dock by the ocean, the woman who saved him for 12 years was waiting for him to save her this time. Keanu moved through the darkness by the river, every step echoing with memories of Amelia. The cold wind bit his face, but he didn't stop. He kept his hand in his pocket, feeling the letter and the flash drive. They felt like the only real things left in a world that suddenly seemed so fake. He found an old fishing cabin at the edge of the water. It looked abandoned, but he needed shelter. Inside, he sat on the floor and pulled the flash drive from his pocket. He didn't have his laptop, but he remembered the man's words: proof, exposure, freedom for Amelia. His mind drifted back to her face the last time he saw her. Her eyes looked so tired, yet she still stood tall. She had spent 12 years protecting him from threats he didn't even know existed. And now she was running alone, hunted because she finally chose her freedom. Keanu leaned his head back against the wall and closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt small. He was Keanu Reeves, the movie star everyone thought had it all together, but without Amelia, he felt like a child lost in the woods. He must have drifted off, because when he opened his eyes, dawn was breaking through the cracks in the cabin walls. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, half hoping it would be Amelia. Instead, it was a message from the man who had helped him. The words made his heart pound. "She's at the dock. They're closing in. You have one chance. Come." Alone, Keanu stood up so fast he felt dizzy. He grabbed his bag, tucked the letter deep into his coat, and stepped back into the cold morning air. The mountains seemed to watch him as he made his way down the muddy path toward the coast. Hours later, he reached a small gas station by the highway. He paid cash for an old motorbike parked behind the store. The engine rattled and coughed, but it moved as he rode through winding roads toward the ocean. Memories of Amelia flickered like a movie in his mind. The late nights, the quiet smiles, the moments when her eyes said what her mouth never did. He reached the dock just as the sun began to set. The place was empty except for a lone figure sitting at the edge, legs dangling above the water. It was Amelia. Keanu's single quotes' breath caught in his throat. He cut the engine and walked toward her, his boots crunching on the old wooden planks. Every step felt like 100 questions he didn't know how to ask. Amelia turned when she heard him. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair tied back under a baseball cap. For a moment, they just stared at each other. No words, no explanations. Finally, Keanu sat down beside her. He pulled the letter from his coat and held it out. "I read every word." Amelia flinched like the paper might burn her. She looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted you to know like that." Keanu's throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" She let out a bitter laugh. "I was a coward. I thought if I worked hard enough, I could erase what I did. But people like me don't get to be forgiven." Keanu shook his head. "That's not true. You gave up your life for me." She turned to face him, her eyes fierce even through the tears. "And I'd do it again. But they won't stop, Keanu. They want you controlled. They want me gone. And they'll keep coming." Keanu pulled the flash drive from his pocket. "We can expose them. We have proof." Amelia stared at it like it was a bomb about to explode. "That won't be enough. They'll twist the story. They'll make you look crazy. They'll bury the truth." Keanu reached for her hand. It was cold and trembling. "Then we fight smarter, you and me, together." She tried to pull away, but he held on. "Amelia, look at me. You are not alone anymore. You never were." A single tear slid down her cheek. "Why do you still care after what I did?" Keanu squeezed her hand tighter. "Because you were never my bodyguard. You were my friend, my family. That means something." For a moment, the world felt quiet. Just the waves against the dock, the seagulls crying overhead, and to people who finally stopped pretending to be strangers. But the moment broke when Amelia stiffened. She looked over his shoulder. There. Here, Keanu turned. Down the dock, 3 men in dark coats walked toward them. The lead man's face was familiar. Barrington's son. Smug and confident. Amelia stood up, pulling Keanu behind her. They'll try to take you. They don't care what happens to me. Keanu stepped beside her, refusing to hide. Then they'll have to go through both of us. Barrington's son stopped a few feet away. His smile was cold. Mr. Reeves. Miss Carter, such a touching reunion. But it's over now. Give me the drive. Keanu shook his head. It's going public. The man's smile grew wider. You think people will believe a washed-up actress and an aging movie star? You're nothing without me. Double quotes Amelia, single quotes. S eyes flashed with anger. We'll see about that. In a sudden move, she pulled a small recording device from her pocket and held it up. Smile for the camera, Barrington. This dock has surveillance, and so does my pocket. The man's eyes narrowed. His confidence cracked just for a second. He motioned to his men. Take it from her. The goons stepped forward, but Keanu moved in front of Amelia. For the first time, she was the one being protected. Behind him, he heard her voice, strong and steady. I'm done running. The wind whipped around them as the standoff began. Keanu knew this moment would decide everything. Whether they would be free or buried forever under secrets and lies. He tightened his fists, ready to fight beside the woman who had once protected his life at all costs. The waves crashed against the dock as the first man lunged, and in that instant, Keanu felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The first man lunged at Keanu, swinging his arm toward the flash drive in his hand. Keanu dodged, his mind clear for the first time in days. He had done fight scenes 1,000 times in movies, but this was real. His heart pounded as he grabbed the man's arm and twisted it behind his back, pushing him down onto the dock. Behind him, Amelia fought off another man. She moved with quick, sharp strikes, a reminder that for 12 years, she hadn't just been a shadow behind him, she had been a warrior in silence. The third man tried to sneak up on her, but Keanu shouted, "Behind you," and she spun around, kicking the man's leg so hard he stumbled into the water with a splash. Barrington's son stood there, his fake smile gone, his face twisted with rage. You think you've won? You think this changes anything? Keanu stepped closer, his chest heaving. It changes everything. The man pulled out a small pistol and aimed it at Amelia. She froze, her hands slightly raised, but her eyes didn't show fear, only sadness. Keanu felt his stomach drop. You always were the weak link, Amelia, Barrington's son sneered. 12 years wasted on a coward. Keanu stepped in front of her, blocking the gun. With his own body, you'll have to shoot me first. For a moment, no one moved. The waves slapped against the dock. The wind whistled through the posts, and somewhere a gull cried. Then a voice echoed from behind the trees. Drop it. Dozens of footsteps crunched on the dock. Men and women in black jackets emerged, some with cameras, some with badges. The man from the cafe stepped forward, holding up his phone. On the screen was a live video stream. We got your confession, Barrington, he said, his voice calm but deadly. We've been streaming the whole thing, every threat, every word. Barrington's son's face turned pale. He lowered the gun a fraction, but then his eyes darted toward Amelia like he might try something desperate. Keanu didn't wait. He stepped forward, grabbed the man's wrist, and twisted it until the gun clattered to the dock. The officers moved in, cuffing Barrington's son and his men. The man from the cafe turned to Keanu and Amelia. You did good. Now the world will know what they did. Keanu barely heard him. He turned to Amelia, who was still frozen in place, staring at the water like she couldn't believe it was over. He reached out, touching her arm gently. It's done. He whispered, You're free. Amelia's eyes filled with tears, but this time they fell. She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with the weight of 12 years. Finally lifting, Keanu pulled her into his arms. For the first time, he was the one protecting her. I don't deserve this, she sobbed into his chest. Keanu shook his head. You deserve everything good. Amelia, you gave up your life to save mine. Let me give you something back now. The man from the cafe cleared his throat. We'll keep you both safe until the trial. Barrington's empire is about to crumble. You did it." Keanu didn't answer. He just held Amelia tighter as the dock filled with people, police, reporters, people who finally saw the truth. He knew the story would be everywhere by morning. But for once, he didn't care about headlines. The only thing that mattered was the woman who had stood behind him for 12 years, was finally standing beside him. Weeks passed. The world watched the trial unfold. Barrington's secrets spilled into the open. People were shocked to see how deep the lies went, how many people he had bought, how many lives he had ruined. But through it all, Amelia stayed close to Keanu. When the days felt too heavy, they reminded each other they were stronger together. One morning, Keanu stood on his porch, holding 2 mugs of coffee. Amelia sat on the steps, the sunrise painting her face with gold. She looked at peace, something he hadn't seen in her for so long. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly. She smiled. "Tired but true. Not a second. I'd do it all again." He handed her the mug and sat beside her. "I think I owe you 12 years of protection now." She laughed, wiping a tear away. "Good luck, Mr. Reeves." They sat there in the quiet, watching the sun rise higher, warming the cold spaces that secrets had once filled. No cameras, no guards, no lies. Just 2 people who had finally found freedom and each other. Keanu knew life would never be simple again, but as long as they faced it together, he knew they would be okay. Some secrets break you, some secrets set you free. And sometimes, forgiveness is the bravest thing you can give or accept.